My in-laws assigned me Christmas dinner without asking, and now I'm refusing to host Reddit. I could really use some outside perspective on this one. I never thought something like holiday dinner planning could turn into such a blowout, but here we are. I'm Laura, 34F. I've been married to my husband Mark, 36M, for 6 years. We live in a mid-sized house in the suburbs of Michigan with our 2 kids, Olivia, 7F, and Jacob, 4M. I work as a project manager and Mark is a software engineer. We're comfortable, but not wealthy. Our house is cozy and fits us well, but it's not some giant open-floor mansion. It's just a regular home with a dining room table that seats 8 if you squeeze. Mark comes from a big family. His parents, Susan, 61F, and David, 64M, are still married. He's the middle child of 3. His older sister, Heather, 38F, is married to Ryan, 39M, and they have 3 kids ages 12, 9, and 6. His younger brother, Kevin, 32M, is single and lives in a city about an hour away. Traditionally, Christmas dinner has rotated among different family members. When Mark and I were first dating, his parents always hosted at their place. They have a nice big house with plenty of space. Then, after Susan had knee surgery 3 years ago, the hosting responsibilities started moving around. Heather hosted 1 year, Kevin hosted the next. Well, his girlfriend at the time basically did all the work. Last year we all went out to a restaurant because nobody wanted the hassle. So imagine my surprise when, about 2 weeks ago, Susan sends out a group text that basically read, "Hi everyone, excited for Christmas this year. Laura will be hosting. Dinner at her place, we'll bring dessert. See you all then." No discussion, no asking, just boom. Announced to the whole family. I literally stared at my phone in disbelief. Like, excuse me? Since when did I sign up for this? The reality of hosting. Here's the thing, I love cooking for my own little family, but hosting 12+ people is a completely different story. My kitchen isn't huge. My dining room table maxes out at 8, which means I'd need to drag in folding tables and chairs and basically rearrange half my house. I don't have serving platters for that many people, and I certainly don't have a budget to feed 12-15 people on a holiday meal where expectations are sky high. Not to mention, I work full-time. December is one of the busiest times of the year at my job, and my kids still have school activities, Christmas concerts, and a million other things. The thought of pulling off some Pinterest-worthy Christmas dinner for this crew made my stomach churn, so I called Mark right away. He was at work and asked if he knew about this. He swore he had no idea. He said his mom must have just assumed since we have the youngest kids, and we should be the ones to make memories in our home. I told him flat out, "I am not doing this. I never agreed to this." He said he understood but also warned me that pushing back would cause drama. The confrontation. That night we called Susan on speakerphone. I told her gently, "I saw your text about Christmas dinner. I appreciate the thought, but I wasn't consulted and I don't think we can host this year." She acted shocked. "Oh, Laura, it's no big deal. We'll help bring food and you don't have to do everything yourself." I told her, "It is a big deal? We don't have the space, the budget, or the bandwidth right now." Her response, "Well, someone has to host, and Heather hosted already, and Kevin doesn't have a big enough place. You're really the only option." I said, "That's not my problem. Just because I have a dining room doesn't mean I'm automatically responsible for Christmas." Susan got huffy and said I was being selfish and ruining tradition. Mark jumped in to back me up, reminding her that we were never asked in the first place. She eventually ended the call with, "Well, I guess we'll figure something else out," in the frostiest tone imaginable. The fallout. For the past 2 weeks, things have been tense. Susan has called Mark multiple times to guilt trip him. She keeps saying things like, "I don't know why Laura is making such a fuss," and "Everyone else has done their part, why can't she?" Heather texted me separately, saying she understands it's a lot of work, but that she's already done her turn, and she thinks it's only fair that we step up. Kevin hasn't said much, but he did joke in the group chat, "Guess we're all just going to starve this Christmas." Meanwhile, Mark is caught in the middle. He tells me he supports me, but I can tell he's exhausted by the drama. He keeps saying, "I wish you would just host this one time so everyone stops fighting," but I can't bring myself to do it. I feel like if I give in now, It sets a precedent that I'll always be the one to pick up the slack. And honestly, I'm resentful. It's not fair to be assigned something without being asked, especially something that requires time, money, and energy I don't have. Where things stand now, as of today, Susan still hasn't announced an alternative plan. Christmas is 3 weeks away. Part of me wonders if she's deliberately dragging her feet so that I'll cave and volunteer at the last minute. But I won't. I've told Mark I'm happy to contribute a couple of side dishes, or even host a small brunch on Christmas Eve for just his parents if they want quality time with the kids. But a full-blown Christmas dinner for 15 people? Absolutely not. The tension is thick. Heather has stopped texting me. Susan sends passive-aggressive emails to Mark. The other day she wrote, "I just hope the children don't suffer because of these choices." Which made my blood boil because my kids are my responsibility, not hers. I know this might sound stubborn, but I feel like I'm standing up for myself. Saying no is hard, especially to family. But this isn't fair, so, yeah, that's where we're at. Christmas might be chaos this year, but at least I'll be sane in my own home. Update. After Christmas, well, Christmas has come and gone, and here's how it went down. Susan ended up hosting after all. She complained about it endlessly in the group chat, but she still did it. When we showed up, she was cold toward me but warm toward the kids. Dinner was fine. Turkey, sides, pies. Honestly, it felt pretty normal, except for the undercurrent of tension. At one point, Heather made a little dig like, "Well, maybe next year someone else will take a turn." And I just smiled and said, "We'll see." The funniest part? After dinner, Susan pulled me aside and admitted she hadn't realized just how much work it still was for her to host, even with Heather helping in the kitchen. She said, "I suppose I should have asked you first. I just thought it would be easier for you because you're younger." I didn't gloat, but inside I felt so vindicated. I just told her, "I appreciate you saying that. Maybe next year we can plan together earlier so it's not stressful for anyone." So no giant family blow-up, no ruined Christmas, but I did hold my boundary. And honestly, it felt really good. Final update. Months later. Hey Reddit, I figured. I'd circle back since a few people asked me to keep them posted. It's been about 5 months since the whole Christmas dinner fiasco, and things have definitely shifted. After Christmas, there was still some lingering frostiness from Susan and Heather. For the first few weeks of January, Susan barely called Mark, which is unusual because she normally checks in with him 2 or 3 times a week. When she finally did, it was mostly about the kids, and she went out of her way to avoid mentioning me. I won't lie, it stung a bit. Not because I need her approval, but because it created this weird elephant in the room energy whenever we were all together. For example, at Olivia's school play in February, Susan made polite conversation with other parents sitting near us, but wouldn't make eye contact with me. When I handed her a program, she said, "Thanks," without looking up. I felt like a middle schooler being iced out. Heather wasn't much better. She started a family group chat called Sibling News, just her, Kevin, and Mark, which I thought was kind of petty. Mark told her point blank that excluding me felt intentional, and she brushed it off saying, "Oh, I just thought it'd be easier for us to coordinate sibling stuff without overwhelming the chat." Sure, Heather, because adding me would be so overwhelming. Anyway, Mark stayed supportive, which I'm grateful for. He kept telling me, "We're a team. If they're mad at you, they're mad at me too." He also admitted he never realized how much his mom just assumes things, and how often she guilts people into doing what she wants. Standing up to her was uncomfortable, but it opened his eyes. Fast forward to March. Susan actually called me, directly, which she hadn't done in months. She said she wanted to talk about Easter. My stomach dropped. I thought, here we go again. But to my surprise, she asked, "Would you be open to helping me host Easter here at our place? Maybe bring a couple of dishes?" I almost fell off my chair. This woman who had practically exiled me after Christmas was now asking nicely for my help? I agreed to bring 2 sides and dessert. When we showed up, Susan was much warmer. She even told me, "Your sweet potato casserole was the hit of the day." I know that sounds small, but from her, it felt like a peace offering. Heather eventually softened too. though she couldn't resist a jab. At one point during Easter cleanup, she joked, "At least Mom didn't assign anyone this time," and then looked at me. I just laughed and said, "Communication works wonders." Everyone chuckled, and the tension broke a little. By the time summer rolled around, the dynamic had shifted. We saw Susan and David at Olivia's birthday party in June, and things felt almost back to normal. Susan even brought up Christmas herself, saying, "This year, let's all talk about it in October so no one feels overwhelmed." That felt like her way of acknowledging the past without outright apologizing. Here's what I've realized after these months. Setting boundaries did cause short-term drama, but in the long run, it improved things. Susan still has her controlling tendencies, but she now thinks twice before assigning things. Mark respects me more for standing firm, and we're more united as a couple. The family didn't implode. We survived a rocky holiday, and now there's actually a healthier system in place. So yeah, I don't regret saying no. Christmas was awkward, but sometimes you have to go through discomfort to set a better precedent. And honestly, I think Susan respects me more now, even if she'd never admit it out loud. Will I ever host a giant Christmas dinner? Maybe someday, on my own terms, when I actually want to, but not because someone assigned it to me like a chore. Thanks to everyone who encouraged me to hold my boundary. It was tough, but it was worth it. Stories number 2. My fiancé lied about his bachelor party plans, and I don't know if I should have confronted him sooner. So here's the situation. My fiancé, Jake, 31M, and I, 29F, Emily, are supposed to get married in just under 6 weeks. Everything has been full-throttle wedding prep mode. Tasting cakes, finalizing our guest list, seating charts, rehearsal dinner menu, fittings, flower arrangements, the works. It's been stressful, sure, but also exciting. I've been telling people that Jake and I are a good team when it comes to this stuff. We've known each other for 5 years, been dating for 4, engaged for about 1.5 years. We're not perfect, but I really thought we'd ironed out our communication kinks a long time ago. Apparently not. The overheard call 2 weeks ago. I was walking into the kitchen while Jake was on speakerphone with his best man Ryan, 32M. Jake had left his phone on the counter while he was grabbing a beer from the fridge, so I didn't even realize it was on speaker until I heard Ryan's voice loud and clear. "Yeah, the strippers will be there at 11, so make sure the guys have cash on hand." I froze. I wasn't snooping. I didn't touch the phone. But once those words hit my ears, my stomach dropped. Because here's the thing. Jake has repeatedly told me that he hates strip clubs. Like, hates them. He's said things like, "I'd never waste my money on that. It's just sad, paying for attention like that. I'm not like other guys, I don't need that." He's made it part of his identity almost. Anytime a bachelor party came up in conversation, he'd roll his eyes and act like he was too mature for that scene. So hearing Ryan so casually confirm strippers were part of his bachelor party plans, it felt like the floor shifted under me, my headspace. I don't actually care about strip clubs, truly. If Jake had said from the beginning, "Hey, it's tradition, the guys want it, I'll probably end up at one for my bachelor party," I'd have shrugged and said, "Cool, have fun." I'm not that person who bans fun or micromanages what he does with his friends. But this was different. He built himself up as the guy who doesn't do that, who's above it, and he let me believe it. For years. So my issue isn't the strippers, it's the lying. I didn't say anything in the moment. I walked out of the kitchen like I hadn't heard a thing, went upstairs, and sat on our bed in silence for a good half-hour just stewing. The dilemma. Now here's where I'm stuck. Do I confront him before the bachelor party and risk him getting defensive? Do I wait until after and see what excuse he comes up with? Do I just keep quiet forever and swallow the fact that my fiancé is capable of lying so convincingly about something so small, but also so telling? I confided in my friend Laura, 28F. She thinks I'm playing with fire. She said, "If you don't tell him you know, then it's like you're setting a trap for him. That's not fair either. If you're upset, just say it before the party." But another friend, Megan, 30F, had the opposite view. "No, let him do it. Let him walk into it thinking you're clueless. Then when he tries to spin it after, you'll know exactly how honest he really is." Both sides made sense, but I just couldn't shake this knot in my stomach. It's like, I don't want to be the person testing my partner, but at the same time, he already failed a test I didn't even know I was giving. The subtle hints. The days after, Jake kept talking about his bachelor party in this weird way, almost like he was trying to over-explain. He'd say stuff like, I think Ryan's keeping it low-key, nothing crazy. We'll probably just play poker and hang out. Don't worry, it's not going to be one of those parties. And each time I'd just nod and smile like, mm-hmm. Inside, though, I was boiling. Every little casual lie was a reminder. He thinks I don't know. He thinks he's clever. At one point, I even asked him jokingly, so no strippers, right? He laughed and said, of course not. You know me. Reader, my eye twitched. Where I'm at now, the party is next weekend. I've kept this to myself for almost 2 weeks, and it's eating me alive. Every time he kisses me goodnight or talks about how excited he is for our wedding, I think, but you're lying straight to my face about this dumb party. It's not even about the party anymore. It's about whether I can trust him when he swears up and down that he's not that guy. So here's my plan. Unless I break first, I'm not saying anything until after the bachelor party. I want to see if he comes clean, or if he pretends it was just poker night. Because if he lies again, I'm not sure I can walk down the aisle with someone who lies so easily about who he is. My actual question. Am I wrong for not telling him? I know? Am I wrong for wanting to wait it out and see if he buries himself? My friend Laura swears I'm being manipulative by staying quiet. But to me, it feels like Jake already made the choice to mislead me. I'm just letting him show me who he really is. Edit. A lot of people are asking if I'd really call off a wedding over a bachelor party. Let me be clear. This isn't about strippers. It's about integrity. If he can lie about this with a straight face, what else is he capable of lying about? That's the scary part for me. Final update. My fiancé lied about his bachelor party, and I had to decide whether to still marry him. Hi again, everyone. A few weeks ago I posted about how I overheard my fiancé Jake's bachelor party plans involving strippers, even though he always claimed to hate strip clubs, and how he lied to me about it afterward. I wasn't sure if I should confront him, and when I finally did, it spiraled into questions about trust, honesty, and whether I should go through with the wedding. Well, the wedding was supposed to happen last weekend. Here's how it all played out. The weeks leading up. After my last post, I stayed at Laura's, my best friend, for nearly a week. Jake kept sending long messages and even showed up at her place once, begging me to talk. Eventually, I agreed to meet him at a cafe, neutral ground. He cried, like full-on cried in public, saying he messed up, that he lied out of fear, that he never actually touched anyone at the party and barely looked at the strippers. He swore he'd go to therapy, do couples counseling, whatever it took. Part of me believed him. Part of me wanted so badly to just sweep it under the rug and have the happily ever after I'd pictured. But every time I looked at him, I remembered that morning after Smile when he looked me in the eye and told me, poker and pizza. I couldn't unsee that. The breaking point. 2 weeks before the wedding, we had our final venue walkthrough. On the drive there, Jake casually said, by the way, let's not tell anyone about that fight. It'll just make people think less of me. That was the moment. That one sentence. He wasn't focused on fixing the trust. He was focused on protecting his image. I realized then that I couldn't do it. Not just the wedding. The marriage. Because what kind of life would it be, always wondering if he's telling me the truth or telling me what he thinks makes him look better? Calling it off 3 days later, I sat him down and told him I couldn't marry him. Not now, maybe not ever. He begged, bargained, swore he'd change. He said, you're throwing everything away over one lie. And I said, no, I'm saving myself from a lifetime of lies. You've shown me who you are, and I believe you. I moved back in with my mom temporarily. We called off the vendors, told the guests. It was humiliating, expensive, and heartbreaking. But also, weirdly, a relief. The fallout, Jake. He's furious and devastated. He keeps texting me saying I'll regret this forever and that no one's perfect. He even tried to get Ryan, his best man, to talk me into reconsidering. Didn't work. Ryan and Samantha both reached out. Ryan actually apologized to me, saying he should have stepped in when Jake insisted on the no strip clubs image. Samantha just said she hoped I'd find peace. My family, my mom and brother were incredible. My mom literally said, "Better some lost deposits than a lost decade." My friends, Laura threw me what she jokingly called a non-bachelorette party the night before the wedding date. Just wine, bad rom-coms, and laughter. It was exactly what I needed. Where I am now still hurts. There are moments when I miss him, when I picture the life we almost had. But then I remember how it felt sitting across from him, realizing he'd rather keep up an act than be honest with me. I don't regret walking away. In fact, I feel like I dodged a bullet. 6 weeks ago I was worried about looking petty for not confronting him sooner. Now I see that my instincts were screaming at me the whole time. I wanted a marriage built on trust. He gave me an illusion. And I'm glad I found out before I signed a contract tying us together for life. TLDR. I called off the wedding. Fiancé lied about his bachelor party, then kept lying to protect his image. Realized I couldn't marry someone I didn't trust. Painful, but the right choice. Stories. Number 3. My 28F best friend 27F ended our 12-year friendship with a brief voicemail the week before my wedding. I don't know how to move on without closure. We've been best friends since high school and have talked nearly every day for 12 years. Even after I moved across the country twice, we stayed close. I was her maid of honor 7 months ago, and she was supposed to be mine. Then she abruptly ended our friendship last week with a scripted voicemail. Some background. I was diagnosed with BPD at 20, which helped explain a lot of unhealthy behaviors I had in my teens, especially compulsive lying. Through therapy and a medicated brain, I've made huge strides. I'm now able to call myself out in the moment, apologize, and try to repair trust when I slip up. My therapist also suggested the phrase, "slow your thoughts and focus on the truth" for my friends to use when they're unsure if I'm being honest. It's embarrassing when said out loud in a group, but it's also been helpful. My friend knew about this and had used it in the past, always with kindness. She knew me years before I was diagnosed, when I had no coping skills and was deep in teenage insecurity. I've made a point to clarify past lies whenever they come up, especially stuff from high school, and I've taken full accountability. I know I was the main reason for a rocky foundation of our friendship, but I had thought we had made great progress strengthening it. Our overall values have always aligned. Our actions just didn't always support them. 2 weeks ago, we went on my bachelorette trip. While we were there, she shared a few embarrassing high school stories I had previously admitted were lies, and she did it in front of everyone. It felt intentional and honestly humiliating. When I asked her about it later, she said she was just anxious because she didn't know the group well. These were my cousins, sorority sisters, and other college friends. They all are also aware of my struggles with telling tales, but also know it's something I'm constantly working on. I figured it was her awkwardness and let it go. Then the next morning, I found out she called my mom. She told her about us getting drunk the night before and brought up things from my past drugs, one-night stands, sneaking out of the house, etc. My mom was confused and concerned. I'm 28, and she doesn't care about the details of high school and college as long as I'm healthy, safe, and making better choices now. Her only comment was, "If I had known in the moment with any of it, I would have helped you sooner." I called my friend to try to talk about why she felt the need to involve my mom. No response. I texted her twice over the next day and even sent her photos from the trip, trying to open the door to talk. Nothing. 2 full weeks passed with silence. Then, on the day of my final walkthrough with wedding vendors, a day she had access to on the shared schedule and was supposed to be at, she called and left me a 60-second voicemail. In it, she said she was stepping down as matron of honor and that we should no longer be friends. It was clearly scripted. She then sent the exact same message to my fiancé and my mom. I called and texted her, once each after that. I wasn't going to blow up her phone, but I did want a conversation. I wanted to understand. Since then, I've spoken to my other friends from the trip. They told me she had pulled several of them aside individually during the weekend to complain that she didn't get enough alone time with me. She also shared more embarrassing stories about me from when I was 16 or 17. The general consensus was that I hadn't done anything wrong during the trip itself, but her energy was off and she seemed like she was trying to prove something. I'm not mad that the friendship ended. I understand people grow apart. What's hurting me is how it ended. No warning, no conversation. 2 weeks of silence, followed by a cold, rehearsed message the week before my wedding. I thought our friendship could survive the past, especially since we had grown and supported each other through so much. She was supposed to stand next to me at the altar. Now she won't even respond to a text. I know I haven't been a perfect friend. I know my past issues may have been exhausting, but I also know I've grown, always been there for her, and I've tried to make amends when I've hurt people. I really believed our friendship had weathered the hardest parts already. Now I'm less than a week away from my wedding, trying to focus on joy and celebration. But I keep coming back to this massive sense of grief and confusion. I don't know what changed. I don't know if something happened that weekend that pushed her over the edge. I just wish she would have talked to me. Even a final conversation would have helped me move on. How do I handle this lack of closure, especially when I want to be present and happy for my wedding? Stories number 4. My coworker found my panty liner that I forgot to throw away, took a picture, and showed it to other coworkers and the principal. I work at a middle school in a small town in the Midwest. It's not a huge school, but big enough that we have 2 buildings connected by a long hallway. I'm 27F, a fairly new teacher. This is my 2nd year. Most of my coworkers are older than me, some close to retirement age. And I'll be honest, it hasn't been the warmest environment. There's this weird culture where people seem to thrive on pointing out mistakes, even tiny ones. Instead of just saying, "Hey, can you fix this?" It somehow turns into a group discussion or even gets brought up in the staff chat. It's happened to me before, and I already felt like I was walking on eggshells. But yesterday, it went to a whole other level. What happened in the bathroom? There was a water issue in our building yesterday. The maintenance team had shut off the supply in our wing for a few hours. That meant everyone had to walk over to the other block to use the bathroom. The bathrooms over there are older and don't have sanitary bins in every stall, which is frustrating, but we make do. I was on my period and wearing a panty liner as backup. When I went to use the bathroom, I thought I flushed it down after changing, but apparently I must have dropped it near the toilet without realizing. I was rushing, distracted, and honestly, just tired after a long day with 7th graders. Didn't think anything of it until I was driving home. That's when my phone rang. It was my coworker, Hannah, 35F, who teaches English and is usually kind of neutral with me. Not a close friend, but not mean either. The call that made my stomach drop. Hannah's voice was awkward when I picked up. "Hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up about something before tomorrow," she said. I was confused. Okay? What's going on?" She hesitated, then blurted out, "Did you leave a panty liner in the bathroom? Like, did you maybe forget to throw it away?" I was so shocked I almost swerved off the road. "What? Oh my God. I mean, maybe?" I changed before leaving. "Why?" And then she told me, apparently another teacher, Denise, 50F, math department, went into the bathroom after me, saw the panty liner on the floor, and instead of just picking it up with a paper towel and throwing it away like a normal adult, she took a picture of it. Not only that, she walked back into the teacher's lounge and showed it around like some kind of middle scholar, saying, "Look what I found." According to Hannah, several staff members were there, including a few I've always felt judged by, like Cheryl, 58F, Science, and Brenda, 61F, History. They apparently all started talking about how it must have been me, because they saw me leaving the bathroom right before Denise went in. Hannah said she didn't participate, but wanted to let me know because she knew it would come up tomorrow. I wanted to sink into the ground. I felt my face burning just hearing about it. I stammered out, "Oh my God, I thought I threw it away. That's mortifying." She just said gently, "I figured you'd want to know." The humiliation sets in. I hung up and sat in my car in the driveway for like 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. My stomach was in knots. It wasn't just that I had made a mistake. Accidents happen, and it wasn't like I did it on purpose. What destroyed me was the fact that these grown women, who are supposed to be my colleagues and peers, didn't. just quietly fix it or even discreetly tell me. No, they made it into a group spectacle. They literally paraded my private mistake around like gossip. And apparently, Denise even showed the principal, Mr. Adams 52M. Why? Why on earth would you need to involve the principal over something so stupid and human? This isn't even the first time. What makes it worse is that this isn't the first time they've done something like this. A few months ago, I had been using an extra chair in the lounge to stack some papers while grading. I forgot to put it back when I left because another teacher sat down in it, so I assumed it wasn't needed anymore. Later that day, I saw in the staff group chat, yes, the official work group chat, a picture of the chair sitting in the wrong place, and Cheryl had tagged me saying, "Maybe remember to clean up after yourself next time, Emily." It was humiliating then, and now it feels like déjà vu, only 1,000 times worse. The cold shoulders and nasty looks. To be honest, I've never felt like I fit in here. Almost all of the women are older, some of them set in their ways, and I sometimes feel like they resent me for being young or just for existing differently than them. I've overheard little comments before about how kids these days don't take things seriously, or some people think teaching is just showing up. They're not always aimed directly at me, but I feel the sting. And now, after this panty liner thing, I just know tomorrow I'm going to walk in and feel every eye on me, every whisper, every smirk. It makes me want to call in sick and never go back. What I keep asking myself. The question I can't stop asking is, why would other women do this to me? You'd think in an all-female workplace, especially around something like a period mishap, there would be empathy. At the very least, discretion. But instead, they weaponized it. They turned it into gossip material. I keep thinking, what if it had been one of them? Would they have been blasted like this? Or would it have been quietly ignored? I don't know if this is because I'm younger, newer, and easier to pick on, or if this is just who they are. Tomorrow, I barely slept last night. My mind kept spinning, imagining walking into the lounge and hearing Denise's voice say something like, "Oh look, it's Miss Hygiene," while everyone laughs. I know that sounds paranoid, but based on how they've acted before, it doesn't feel far-fetched. Do I walk in head held high, pretending I don't care? Do I confront Denise directly and say it was out of line to show people? Do I go to HR and say this feels like harassment? Part of me wants to just quit. But I worked hard to get this job, and I don't want to throw it away over mean girl antics from grown women who should know better. What I'm asking, so Reddit, what do I do tomorrow? Do I address it head on? Do I play it cool and act like I don't care? Do I go over their heads and make this official? Because right now, I just feel humiliated, angry, and completely unsupported. I made a mistake. But the way they handled it feels so much bigger than the mistake itself. TLDR. I accidentally left a panty liner in the bathroom at work. Instead of discreetly handling it, a coworker took a picture, showed it to everyone including the principal. And now I feel like the laughingstock of the staff. This isn't the first time they've humiliated me over small mistakes. I don't know how to face them tomorrow or what I should say. Update. My coworker found my panty liner, took a picture, and showed it to everyone, including the principal. Hi, Reddit. First off, thank you for all the responses on my original post. I read through a lot of them last night, and honestly, it helped calm me down a bit. A lot of you reminded me that this was their inappropriate behavior, not mine. Still, I was dreading going in today. Walking into work this morning, I barely slept. But I forced myself to get up, get ready, and walk in like nothing was wrong. I told myself, smile, stay professional, don't let them see you sweat. When I walked into the lounge, I immediately felt that weird tension. You know that thing where a room suddenly goes a little too quiet? Yeah, that. Denise was at the coffee pot, Cheryl and Brenda were sitting at the table, and Hannah gave me a small smile like she knew I was bracing myself. No one said anything, but I caught a smirk from Cheryl when she looked up at me. I felt my stomach twist, but I kept moving. The principal calls me in around 9:30. I got an email from Mr. Adams, our principal, asking me to come to his office during my prep period. My heart sank. I thought, oh God, here it comes. I'm going to get a formal write-up over this. When I walked in, he was sitting behind his desk with that professional but kind expression principals use. "Emily," he said, "I just want to talk to you about something that came up yesterday." I immediately blurted out, "I am so embarrassed. I didn't realize I'd dropped it. It was an accident and I thought I had flushed it. I would never intentionally leave something like that in a bathroom." He actually looked a little uncomfortable and said, "I understand. These things happen. It's not something I would have even thought twice about if it hadn't been brought to me the way it was." That's when I realized Denise really had gone out of her way to show him the picture. His reaction, he leaned forward and lowered his voice. "Frankly, I'm more concerned about the way this was handled than the incident itself. It's inappropriate to take pictures like that and spread them around. It creates a hostile environment." I almost cried with relief. I told him how humiliated I felt, how this wasn't the first time my coworkers had taken pictures of small mistakes to call me out, and how it made me feel targeted. He nodded slowly and said, "You're not the first person to tell me that this group has a culture of pettiness. I'm going to address it. Not just with you, but with them as well." He reassured me I wasn't in trouble, that he understood it was an accident, and that the bigger issue was their behavior. He encouraged me to document things if it continues, and said he would be following up with staff about professionalism. Back in the lounge, when I walked back into the lounge later, I swear Denise wouldn't even look at me. Cheryl and Brenda were quieter than usual. Hannah gave me another supportive smile. It was awkward, but not as brutal as I'd feared. I think word must have gotten around that Mr. Adams was not impressed with their little stunt. Where I stand now, do I feel better? Kind of. At least I know I'm not getting written up. At least I know someone in authority sees this for what it is. But I'm also not naive. I know these women aren't suddenly going to become my friends. If anything, they'll probably resent me more for going to the principal, even though I didn't. The truth is, this school has a toxic culture. The way they jump on every tiny mistake and turn it into a group humiliation session isn't normal. I've been doubting myself since day one here, but after this, I'm realizing it's not me. It's them. I've already started polishing my resume. I don't want to spend my career feeling like I'm in a mean girl high school clique. Final thoughts for now. This experience has been awful, but weirdly, it's also clarified things for me. I don't have to accept this treatment. I don't have to tiptoe around waiting for the next public shaming. I'm a good teacher, and I deserve to work in a place where my coworkers act like adults. I'll keep you guys posted if anything else happens, but for now, I'm just focusing on surviving the rest of this semester and quietly looking for other opportunities. TL. DR of the update. Principal called me in, reassured me I wasn't in trouble, and said he was more concerned about the coworkers' behavior than mine. The lounge was awkward afterward, but no one directly confronted me. I'm updating my resume, because I don't want to stay in this toxic environment forever. Final update. My coworker found my panty liner, took a picture, and showed it to everyone, including the principal. Hi Reddit, it's been a few months since my last update, and I thought I'd circle back because a lot has happened. Life after Panty Liner Gate. After that humiliating incident, I stayed at my job through the end of the semester. Things definitely shifted after the principal, Mr. Adams, pulled people aside. Denise, the one who snapped the photo, suddenly became a lot quieter around me. She didn't apologize, she's not that type, but the smugness disappeared. Cheryl and Brenda toned down the snide comments too, though I'd still catch whispers when I left the room. The energy in the lounge was awkward. Honestly, I stopped eating in there unless Hannah was around. She turned out to be my one safe coworker, bless her heart. Applying elsewhere. The whole thing lit a fire under me. I dusted off my resume, updated my teaching portfolio, and started applying for positions at other schools. I kept it quiet, just quietly slipping out for interviews when I could. By late spring, I got an offer at another school across town. Bigger district, better pay, and from everything I'd heard, a healthier environment. When I told Mr. Adams I'd be leaving, he looked genuinely disappointed but told me he understood. He even wrote me a glowing recommendation letter. The fallout. For them, here's the part I didn't expect. A couple weeks before the school year ended, I heard through the grapevine that Denise actually got written up formally. Apparently, she pulled the same petty stunt on another coworker. Took a picture of an unwashed coffee cup and blasted it in the group chat, tagging the teacher by name. The teacher complained, and this time HR got involved. Mr. Adams had already been keeping an eye on her because of the panty liner incident, so this pushed it over the edge. I don't know if she'll lose her job, but I know she's on thin ice. As for Cheryl and Brenda, well, let's just say the clique lost some of its steam. People started avoiding them because no one wants to be the next gotcha victim. Starting fresh. Now for the good part. I started at my new school last month, and the difference is night and day. My co-workers are supportive, collaborative, and professional. No one's trying to humiliate anyone. No one's weapon-zing group chats. People actually help each other. The first week, when the copy machine jammed, one of the veteran teachers showed me how to fix it instead of taking a picture to mock me. It seems small, but after what I went through, it felt huge. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I can just breathe at work. Final thoughts. That panty liner incident felt like the end of the world at the time. I was humiliated, angry, and convinced I'd ruined my reputation. But looking back, it was the push I needed to leave a toxic environment I'd been tolerating for too long. If you're ever in a workplace where you feel constantly targeted or belittled, trust your gut. It's not normal, and you don't have to stay. Now every time I walk into my new school, I'm grateful. Grateful for a principal who handled things the right way. Grateful for co-workers who act like adults. And grateful that I didn't let one embarrassing accident define me. So that's it. That's the end of the saga. The panty liner didn't ruin me. It actually launched me into a better chapter of my career. TLDR of the final update. I quietly applied for new jobs, got hired at a better school, and left. Denise the picture taker eventually got written up for targeting someone else. My new workplace is supportive and professional, and I'm so much happier. Stories number 5. My roommate blew up because I boxed up his dirty dishes instead of washing them. I 24M. Alex live in a 3-bedroom apartment in Seattle with 2 roommates, Jason 25M and Matt 23M. We've all been living together for almost a year now, and at first, everything was fine. But Jason has this problem with dirty dishes that has completely ruined my patience. From the day we moved in, he would cook full meals, like pasta with sauce, 3 pans for veggies, cutting boards, measuring cups, the whole 9 yards, and then just leave everything in the sink. Not for a few hours, not overnight, sometimes for days. I've walked into the kitchen and gagged from the smell more times than I can count. I tried being reasonable at first. I'd ask nicely, "Hey Jason, can you grab your dishes when you get a chance?" And he'd always say the same thing. "Yeah, I'll get to it later." Later never came. Matt, our 3rd roommate, is conflict-averse and always ends up cleaning Jason's mess, which only reinforces Jason's behavior. He genuinely seems to think someone else will take care of it, and I got sick of being the only one willing to say something. After months of dealing with this, I reached my breaking point. I bought a large plastic storage tub, and every time Jason left dishes in the sink, I'd move them into the tub and set it neatly on his side of the room. No yelling, no lectures, just a clear boundary. Your mess, your problem. At first it seemed to work, and I even found it a little amusing to see his reaction when he opened his door and found a tub of dirty dishes waiting for him. Sometimes he would drag it back to the kitchen, grumble, and then leave the dishes in the tub anyway. I didn't care. They were no longer in the sink, but yesterday everything escalated. I came home to find the sink full of his mess again. Half a lasagna pan, spatulas, cutting boards, and 5 plates. I moved it all into the tub, carried it down the hall, and set it on his carpet. Jason storms out of his room, red in the face. "Dude, what the hell is your problem?" he yells. "What are you talking about?" I ask. "Stop putting my dishes in a box." "It's passive-aggressive as hell," he shouts. "You know what else is disrespectful? Leaving rotting food in the sink for a week. That's gross," I fire back. "If it bothers you so much, just wash them. We all benefit from a clean kitchen," he replies, like I'm the unreasonable one. "So you make the mess, and I clean it? How is that fair?" I ask. "Because I cook for everyone sometimes," he says. "No, you cook for yourself." "I don't touch your leftovers," I respond. Matt pokes his head out from his room and tries to play peacemaker. Guys, can we not? The apartment feels super hostile right now. Jason throws his hands up. Exactly. This box thing is hostile. Alex, just stop. No. I'm not your maid. If you want to live like a slob, fine, but you're not dragging me into it, I tell him. He storms back into his room and slams the door. Matt later told me he thinks I went too far with the tub and should have just talked to Jason again, but I've talked to him dozens of times. Jason doesn't listen. He just expects someone else to clean up after him. Today, when I walked into the kitchen, I saw the same dishes moved back out of the tub, sitting in the sink again. That was it for me. I walked into Jason's room while he was on his computer, and without saying a word, I dumped the entire tub of dirty dishes all over his bedspread. Food scraps, grease stains, everything. I walked out and closed the door. He screamed my name so loudly I thought the neighbors would call the cops. He texted me this morning demanding I pay $60 for laundry and a new comforter. I replied, "You owe me 6 months of not having to live in a pigsty. Wash your dishes." Now it's super awkward. Jason is barely speaking to me, Matt is walking on eggshells, and I'm seriously considering breaking the lease and finding new roommates. I honestly feel like I reached my limit. I've tried being patient, reasonable, and communicative. Nothing works. At some point, you have to protect your own sanity. So Reddit, I need to know. Am I really the asshole for boxing up my roommates, dishes, and finally standing my ground? Update. It's been about 2 months since the dish explosion incident, and things have finally settled. Kind of. After dumping the dishes on Jason's bed, I didn't speak to him for a few days, and honestly, I barely wanted to. He was livid, yelling, threatening to move out, and even tried to involve the landlord. He claimed I destroyed his property and humiliated him in front of Matt. I calmly explained to the landlord that Jason had consistently left dirty dishes piling up in the sink for months, making the apartment unsanitary, and that I had moved them into his space only after repeated warnings. The landlord, who's dealt with Jason's laziness before, told him to figure it out or move, which honestly gave me some relief. Jason tried to avoid me entirely, staying in his room, eating takeout, and barely speaking. Matt was stuck, in the middle, trying to keep peace, but even he admitted privately that Jason had been taking advantage of everyone for months. It was awkward, yes, but it finally forced Jason to confront the consequences of his behavior. Over the next couple of weeks, Jason begrudgingly started doing his dishes, or at least taking them to the kitchen sink and leaving them there. I didn't trust him entirely, so I continued keeping an eye on the kitchen. Every time he left a pan or plate, I would gently remind him, "Hey, these need to be washed." I even offered to help him set up a schedule so he wouldn't fall behind. Surprisingly, he agreed. Small steps. Matt and I ended up having a house meeting, where we laid out some new ground rules. No leaving food to rot, clean up after yourself within 24 hours, and respect shared spaces. Jason reluctantly agreed, though I think he grumbled, more to himself than to us. The really interesting part? Jason actually thanked me a month later. He admitted that having the dishes constantly piled up had made him anxious and embarrassed whenever anyone visited. He didn't say it directly, but I think he realized that the tub incident, as drastic as it was the wake-up call he needed. For me, the apartment is finally livable again. I don't feel stressed walking into the kitchen, and Matt isn't stuck doing all the work either. I've even started cooking more often again, without dreading that I'll end up cleaning up a mountain of dishes left behind. I won't lie, though. The whole experience left me a little scarred. I've learned that some people really need hard boundaries and consequences before they change, even if it means going nuclear with a tub of dirty dishes on their bed. I also learned that passive aggressiveness sometimes works, but only when paired with clear, firm communication. As for Jason, he's not perfect yet. He still leaves a stray fork or cup occasionally, but it's nowhere near the level it was before. And Matt? He's relieved that he doesn't feel responsible for Jason's mess anymore. So, final verdict from my perspective. Yes, it was dramatic, and yes, I probably could have handled it differently in a perfect world. But in reality, nothing else had worked. For the first time in months, I feel like I live in a space where everyone is accountable for themselves, and honestly, that's worth the chaos that erupted. Stories number 6. Neighbor cut down 2 of my trees. What should I look for in a lawyer? I live in an older neighborhood in a small town an hour away from Nashville. The cost of living in Nashville has shot up, as well as property values, and some people have begun to move into our sleepy little town to get more out of their dollar. A newish neighbor is an aspiring country singer, lives in their own world, and seems to have a lot of money. This crudely drawn map shows the proximity of our two houses. The future Johnny Cash, TM, recently built a front porch that includes a fireplace, hanging lights, the whole shebang. Johnny's only source of hurt is that I had two old oak trees that cast his deck in shade during the prime hours the map isn't aligned properly. He asked me to cut them down before, even offering to pay, but I did not comply. When I returned from vacation last week, I came home to two tree stumps, mashed up grass, and a letter telling me to expect a Venmo payment for $2,000. I know that trees are well loved around here, but I don't think that this information is common knowledge to all lawyers. What should I bring up when I meet with a legal representative to explore my punitive retribution? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. In addition to seeking an attorney that is somewhat familiar with tree law, you should also get an arborist out to your property to give you a proper estimate on what those trees were worth. I assure you we are all anxiously awaiting how many zeros are in the estimate that the arborist gives you, so you must promise frequent update posts. Commenter 2. I just want to say LA gets excited about tree law posts because it can amount to very substantial amounts, but that doesn't mean every case will lead to such large amounts. From some of the updates and stories I've read, most times the number doesn't reach six figures. Only in specific conditions does it go that high, but an arborist is definitely the place to start to get an estimate. Commenter 3. Don't accept the Venmo payment. Seems like it could be further proof that your neighbor did this on purpose and without being asked. Commenter 4. Tree owner rights and responsibilities. Landowners' tree rights limit nuisance claims and trespass regarding cutting, trimming, or removing trees that extend beyond property boundaries, especially abutting easements for streets and utility lines. According to the trespass law, others are not allowed to harm a landowner's trees. Persons cutting, removing, or otherwise harming a tree can be liable for double or triple the value of the tree if the trespass is upheld. As in the case of Jack Jones versus Melvin Johnson, Johnson trespassed onto Jones's property and made several deep chainsaw cuts into a large black walnut tree, killing it. Jones had to pay to have the tree removed, and the court awarded Jones more than 5 times the amount he had to pay to have it removed. Update: a lot has happened in the past 15 days. I wanted to provide a brief update, but it will be out of order. Thank you for all of the great advice. Sorry I was unable to comment in the original thread, but I am grateful for everything. The first thing I did was delete Venmo, scan, and backup. The letters left in my mailbox, the ones offering to pay for the trees being cut down, and the one offering $2,000, and called for someone from my local town to come and evaluate that the tree stumps were indeed on my land. But before the land evaluation, I wanted to write a quick gospel in praise of my lawyer. I drove down to the big city of Nashville and met with some real mean SOB. I gave him a quick rundown of what happened, and he literally quoted the helpful comment made by Duderos about harming landowners' trees. He told me that we should wait to file criminal charges until the stumps were without question on my land, so I had a town surveyor visit. And this is where the story gets good. While he was out making his observations, my neighbor came out and wanted to know when I would be taking the payments. I curtly said I wasn't yet ready to accept it, and he got mad, accusing me of being a shitty neighbor and not wanting to help his home. He then insisted that he had the right to cut down the trees, to which the surveyor confirmed my suspicions and told us no, the stumps were actually on my land. He could have trimmed branches if they were too long, but not cut the lumber down. He left in a huff, so now I am waiting for Wednesday, when the certified arborist will visit and tell me the tree value. Thanks again for your help. Final update: sorry for the delay, but that will be explained at the bottom. The arborist came out this past Wednesday. Prior to this meeting and this whole mess, I had taken trees for granted. I simply assumed that you would plant a seed, they would grow, you'd cut them down, make shit, and the process would repeat. But no, I was informed by this mystic man. Of nature, trees are far more complex. They takes years to root. Some trees need more dirt and ground to establish themselves. Some are more valuable in certain areas, with historical roots to the area. Some are incapable of growing in neighborhoods, if infrastructure has since been built. And some trees produce different, veneer-quality logs. White oak trees, or Quercus alba, is apparently one such tree that is highly sought after for veneer-quality logs. They're used for furniture, for banjos here in the South, for all sorts of woodcraft. And, as the magical treeman told me, they're damn tough to grow in neighborhoods. Their roots don't let them grow in neighborhoods, and they shy from urban pollution. His point is that if you had 2 white oak trees of veneer quality cut down from your front yard, is that they'd be irreplaceable. New ones could never regrow to that 100-year-old size ever again. Because of that, Treeman, God of Dollars, stated that $1,000 per year per tree is a base compensation. Sorry for the delay. My lawyer has been smelling blood in the water and wanted to ensure whatever I posted wouldn't put our $200,000 tree case in jeopardy, and wanted to go over it first. TLDR. Don't cut down white oaks in the birthplace of old hickory, or else update after. My aspiring country singer neighbor decided to have trees cut down in my yard to expose his porch to sunlight. An arborist came out and priced the trees to have a combined worth of $200,000. I settled for cash in pocket, $190K. Paid for by his daddy out in LA, where I assumed he has moved back to, and wanted to share the good news with my friends over here, in Reddit. I walk away with some nice spending change, my lawyer with an enjoyable payday, and with my yard sporting 2 new saplings. My lawyer contemplated going after the landscaping company, but a quick subpoena led us to realizing that we would be lucky to be earning any wage garnishes whatsoever. So, oh well, just do your homework next time. Stories number 7, AITA for telling my husband he doesn't get to decide what I do with my body. I have been married to my husband for about 5 years. Overall, we have a good relationship, but lately we've been clashing over something that, to me, feels like common sense. My body, my decision. The most recent fight started when I mentioned possibly getting on birth control again. He immediately jumped in saying he didn't like how it changes my hormones, and that he'd prefer I just stay off it. I told him that I respect his opinion, but at the end of the day, I'm the one dealing with the side effects of not being on anything. He doesn't get the cramps, the stress, the "oh no, is this a pregnancy scare?" anxiety. When I said, "Look, it's my body, and I'm the one who has to manage it, not you," he got really defensive and accused me of not caring about his feelings. To be clear, I do care. He's my husband, I listen to him. But I also feel like it's unfair for him to think he gets a final vote on decisions that literally affect my health. For context, this isn't just about birth control. He's also made comments before when I cut my hair short or when I considered getting a small tattoo. Nothing extreme, but enough that I'm noticing a pattern. I told him flat out, "You don't have the right to tell me what to do with my body." He said that was disrespectful. Now I'm wondering if I was too blunt, or if I just set a boundary that needed to be set. So, AITA for standing my ground? Sum of comments. Top commenter. Make him an appointment to get snipped. Since we are telling each other what to do with each other's bodies, I figured you wouldn't mind. Edit. I'm fully being sarcastic here. In no way do I expect this man would ever give up his bodily autonomy like he expects her to do. Sometimes, a shocking response will bring people back to reality, and to a place where genuine conversation can happen. In all seriousness, you need to talk to him and explain the various methods of birth control that don't affect you hormonally. Conversation is always the first and best answer, unless the person is incapable of such. Then you have to weigh if you are willing to bend to their will on everything, and to the one who said, "I'm a misandries," you couldn't be more wrong. I love men, especially the one I've been happily married to for 30 years who still lights my fire and could eat me with a spoon. Have the day you deserve. Oh, and because I'm a proper Southern belle, bless your heart. Reply. Ha 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 ha. Honestly, I've thought about saying something like that. If he really wants a say in the process, then maybe he can volunteer his body for the procedure instead of micromanaging mine. Commenter, NTA, but your body autonomy is not supported by him. On the contrary, he believes his feelings are more important. and that you need to respect his decisions over yours, that included his control over your body. Get out before you procreate with this person. Reply, yeah, that's exactly what's been bothering me. I love my husband and I don't think he's a bad person, but the pattern of him thinking he gets the final say over my choices is a huge red flag. I'm not planning on leaving over this right now, but I do feel like I need to make it very clear that my body is not up for debate. Hopefully he understands that before it turns into something bigger. Update post. After that argument, things were a little tense for a few days. My husband didn't really bring it up, and I decided not to push it right away. A couple of nights later I started the conversation again, but this time in a calm way. I told him, I'm not ignoring how you feel, but this is about my health and my peace of mind. If birth control helps me feel secure, then that has to be my decision. To my surprise, he actually listened. He admitted he reacted defensively because he felt shut out, but he also acknowledged it was unfair to expect me to handle all the risks and stress on my own. He still doesn't love the idea of hormonal birth control, but he agreed it's ultimately my call. We also talked about the other things like his comments about my haircut and the tattoo. I explained that those remarks made me feel like he wanted control over me. He apologized and said that wasn't his intention, and he understood why it bothered me. We're not completely perfect now, but I do feel like he heard me more clearly this time. For now, I'm making the choices that feel right for me, and he knows it's not something he gets the final say on. Honestly, that feels like progress. Not a full resolution yet, but definitely a step in the right direction. Comment, commenter. Terrific outcome. So glad you were able to talk it through. Thanks for sharing it. Best of luck. Reply. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm glad we were able to actually talk instead of just arguing this time. Fingers crossed it keeps moving in the right direction. Stories number 8 AITA for telling my dad's soon-to-be ex-wife that she's never going to be able to make me or my brother feel responsible for her and dad's divorce. My brother 19M and I 21F lost our mom when we were 5 and 7. Dad met his wife when we were 9 and 7. They dated for a year before he mentioned introducing us, and he asked us how we felt about it. At the time our reaction was we didn't want a new mom. He reassured us that she would not be our new mom but maybe our stepmom. We met her, got along okay with her, but not super fond or close. Dad kept talking to us, and we'd all spend time together. But we still didn't want her as our new mom. And when they got married when I was 12 and my brother was 10, it remained our stance, but we were okay with Dad being with her. The not our new mom thing came largely from school where kids said that's what she'd be because we didn't have a mom anymore, and other adults framed it that way. It was real annoying, so Dad and her agreed that he would keep primary parenting responsibilities, and she would be there in a supporting role with us. Dad said it would allow us to get closer without her being hated for taking over and being the bad guy. She has since admitted that she genuinely believed we would eventually come to see her as our bonus mom and not a stepmom, that we would accept her as more and she would be one of the parents. Her and my dad had 2 more kids together when we were teens, and things were good. We never got especially close to her. She never became the mom figure she wanted to be. Neither of us ever saw her as our parent, and when that reality became more real for her was after my brother graduated. Because both of us had mentioned losing our mom as being a defining thing for us when we graduated. And we both thanked Dad for being an amazing dad and showing that one parent can do an awesome job and can still support their kids' education. We also thanked her, but not as a parent. We said she joined the family. My brother worded it differently. To me a little, but that was the sentiment. This was not what she liked hearing, and it caused fights between her and Dad. She told him we were selfish and ungrateful and spat in her face. Dad defended us, and he told her that we still shouted her out, and that this was where our relationships with her naturally went and that was okay. She admitted it wasn't okay, and she had always expected that to change. She expected to be more mom than just a family member. She said the fact she gave us 2 siblings should have meant more than it did. Then she told Dad she wouldn't do it anymore, and she didn't want us around if she would just be family and not one of our parents. Dad said he'd choose us every time, and she filed for divorce. They have been in the middle of this divorce for almost a year now, and their final court date is approaching. I think that's why she made a point of trying to blame us when she saw us at Dad's recently. She said we must be happy and proud of ourselves, that we ruined a marriage and family unit because we didn't want to replace our poor little dead mommy, and how all we really did was put her in the position to be the bad guy anyway. She told us she hoped our dead mom was worth her and my dad's happiness. I told her she could never make us feel responsible for the divorce. She said it shows just how uncaring we are about others. My dad made her leave and told her to never speak to us like that again. She started yelling that we clearly don't care about him. Dad reassured us, and I still don't feel responsible for the marriage ending, neither does my brother. But AITA for saying what I did to her? It didn't do any good honestly, which has left me wondering. Stories number 9. I won't let my sister meet my son because of her views on surrogacy. When my husband 32 and I 28 told our families about our intentions to have a child within the next year, my sister 34F is the only one who reacted with anything other than support. For our first baby, my husband and I decided on going the surrogacy route. My sister seemingly took this as a personal attack. She spent the rest of the dinner my parents were hosting essentially ranting about how surrogacy is misogynistic, exploitative, that we're gross for wanting to rent a woman's body. Okay, sure. You can have your thoughts on the process, but it didn't end there. Every time we gave an update to family and she was in attendance, she would make it a point of reminding us how she felt. Our son was born a little over 2 months ago. We've been keeping him to ourselves since he was born, so his immune system strengthens, but we've been slowly introducing him to more people lately. My husband's parents came over 2 weeks ago, and then my parents came last weekend. Yesterday, my sister texted to ask when she could meet the baby, and I told her I didn't particularly want someone around him who was so against his entire existence. I said that if she had it her way, my son wouldn't even be here. She says I'm being unfair, but I just can't imagine her around my child when she was so adamantly disdainful towards us during his conception and throughout the pregnancy. Eta, edit. My husband and I are both men. It's in the first line of the post. Sum of comments, downvoted commenter. I also don't like surrogacy or IVF. It smacks of narcissism. We only want a child if they have our DNA. Regardless, I would never tell my family member that I don't agree with their choice if it was something they agreed on. I think you need to have a talk with your sister about this because you're creating a huge wedge in the family where your parents will feel like they can't have both of you in the same place at the same time. Reply: for the record, we do have plans to adopt in the future. Our hope is to adopt a child around 2 to 6 years old, not an infant. We know babies are what prospective parents usually want, and older kids get overlooked. Still, being in the system for longer means less of a secure attachment, more trauma, etc. It takes an experienced caregiver to give these little ones the care they deserve. We thought baby number 2 would be a more appropriate time for that. Very true in regards to creating a burden my parents will have to carry. Guess I'll be swallowing my pride for their sake. Commenter: more info needed. Was your surrogate a friend or volunteer with similar wealth, privilege as you? Was she performing a free act of love? Or was she pushed to surrogacy because of poverty? Comes from a country that has been historically exploited by wealthier and more powerful countries, etc.? Reply: we were connected with our surrogate via the agency we went through, and the same can be said for her. She connected with us the same way. It's a two-way street. The comfortability of both parties is considered. Matches are made based on what each party wants. My husband and I really wanted someone who was open to being in contact with us regularly. She is in a similar tax bracket to us. Our surrogate was a lovely woman who was compensated, yes, but also provided us with this miracle out of love and kindness. My husband and I are not religious, but we were shown what the best, most pure version of religion can look like through her and her husband. She truly opened our minds and our hearts in ways we never expected, and we're still friends today. Topo. Comments. Commenter: 1. My grandma would say, "You burn a blister, you sit on it." She should have chosen her words more carefully if she didn't want them to come back and haunt her. Commenter 2. NTA. My husband and I did IVF after years of infertility. A family member was very open about how IVF was a sin, and even called my unborn child an abomination and a lab rat. We still have very limited contact with this person, and have never, nor will we ever allow them to be alone or close in contact with our child. There are certain events where this person cannot be avoided, but we keep our distance. Like you don't have to agree to the steps someone takes to build their family, but you can keep those negative thoughts to yourself. There's no need to have that negativity around something as happy as a baby. Update. Post. My husband and I made the decision to allow my sister to meet our son a few weeks ago. It was my Nana's birthday, and we thought it would be best to give things a try. Things went well until the topic of us having more children came up. My cousin asked us if we planned on having another baby. My sister piped up with, "I hope you meant it when you said you were going to adopt this time. I know it's not the most egregious of mistakes, but the fact that she still feels so comfortable voicing her opposition to how our son was conceived shows that nothing has changed. We gave her a chance, and now we know we still can't trust her. We called my parents the next day and let them know what happened and how it made us feel. I just can't trust her around my child possible upcoming children. I truly think that if we adopted in the future, she'd at best show some kind of favoritism, or at worst blatantly tell our children that one of them was unethical. We're trying to make this as non-disruptive as possible for my parents. I told them that we would try to find childcare for birthdays and other non-holiday events so that we could still attend, but that our son would obviously be with us on Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc. I'm not asking them to choose between me or my sister, but that we would have to find an alternate day to celebrate if she's invited to holiday parties, or that we would have to stagger times so that we won't be there at the same time. I appreciate the advice on my last post. This has been frustrating, to say the least. Some of comments, commenter, I hope you told her that she just blew her only chance to know your child, Ren. Reply, I wanted my Nana to have a nice birthday. I also didn't really have it in me to say anything to her then, because I was feeling so guilty about giving her access to my child at all. We left shortly after, and I had a good cry on the way home. I know he's not going to remember any of this, but I was just so angry at myself for doubting myself and changing my mind. I'm doing better now. I'm not going to beat myself up for extending an olive branch and trying, commenter. No, do not hide your son from birthdays and stuff like that. If ever there was a time to make your parents choose, this is it, and to reply. I clarified this in another comment, but this was always just a near future kind of arrangement. We never planned on doing this once our son is old enough to be aware of these events. But you're right, even doing it now sets a bad precedent, doesn't it? The more I think about it, the angrier I get all over again. Stories number 10 AITA for refusing to give two of my mom's stepkids a chance to have fun and just be kids because I don't consider them my family. My parents are divorced, and since I 16M was 12, I have lived mostly with my dad. Around the same time, my mom started to get serious with her husband, and a few months after I went to live, mostly with Dad, Mom moved her husband, they were still dating then, and his kids, all under 10 at the time, in. Her husband has 4 kids, 2 are special needs or disabled, and the other 2 are neurotypical with no disabilities. My mom and her husband are pretty focused on the 2 who have disabilities and special needs, and the other 2 kids get left out a lot and don't get to experience much fun. It's so bad that a few times when I was there, they attempted to follow me everywhere I went because they were hoping I'd pay attention to them. But I only go 1 weekend a month, and if Mom isn't able to interact with me, I keep to myself and do my own thing. Lately that has bothered my mom, and she's asked me to take the kids to the park or let them join me and my friends when we go shopping. She also started asking me to invite them over to Dad's house and hang out with them. She told me they need someplace to just be kids, and she and her husband can't provide it, and their mom is out of the picture, and no extended family are close enough to want to do stuff with them. Mom's side of the family doesn't want to do anything either because they don't see them as real grandkids or nieces and nephews. That means Mom wants it to fall on me. She said it would be good for them to know Dad's house anyway because what if there was an emergency and the other 2 were in hospital or something? I told her she'd have to find a sitter because Dad wouldn't take them in, and I wouldn't want him to. She tried to say I needed to be more involved in my family, but telling her I don't consider them my family made her change tactics from that to, OMG, how unfair are you being, they are your real family and grow up, kind of shit. I still have to go one weekend a month, and according to the judge, I need to spend that one weekend until I'm 18. And this was confirmed only a few weeks ago, which my mom was pissed it was brought back to court in the first place. So I'm trying not to make that a total hellish experience for me. But last time I was at mom's, her 2 stepkids were begging to hang out with me and my friends. And when I left without taking them, Mom had a fit and told me I'm failing those kids and should be supporting them as their older brother. She said I'm denying them a chance to have fun and be normal kids when it would cost me nothing. Stories. Number 11. My 27F little brother, 22, joined a pro-life group for young men. I'm considering cutting ties. My 27F little brother, 22, has been struggling with loneliness for years. I've told him that if he wants to stop being so lonely and maybe get a GF, he needs to actually do something with his life. Stop playing video games, anime in his room. Try to better himself as a person, and actually go outside and connect with people. Get healthy hobbies, go volunteer. Instead, he recently found meaning in the church. It is unfortunately a very right-wing church, and he has become very passionate about it. Our family grew up lightly Christian, but drifted away from religion over time. His pastor told him they've seen a new phenomenon. Lots of young men like my brother are joining the church, more than ever before, especially from nearby universities. And the church is very excited about it. They want to organize them for something meaningful. A few of those churches in the area have put together a group of young men, mostly college-aged, to defend the unborn. They're going to protest outside of providers as a big group. My brother says these young males just want to make their voices heard. But to me it sounds like an intimidation tactic against vulnerable women. I'm livid. I feel like I don't want to support or have someone in my life who does that. I know different. Politics can coexist. But this one is a red line for me for some deeply, deeply personal reasons. Nuclear options available. Do I cut ties? How do I handle this? Any advice would be appreciated. TLDR. My struggling younger brother joined a pro-life group for young men. It's a red line for me, and I'm considering cutting ties with him. Stories. Number 12. AITA for getting upset with my husband over hand-me-down clothes for our newborn. Hey y'all. So my mom lives a few states away and is not able to help prepare for her first grandchild the way she'd like to, unfortunately. A friend of hers asked her if I'd like some baby clothes, some slightly worn and some never used. Before, I said of course. And my mom went through all the clothes and washed it and mailed it to me. So when we received the box of clothes, I was pretty excited to go through it, as we haven't bought anything baby-related yet, as I mentioned. This is my husband and my first child. I think I showed him maybe 2 pieces of clothing and I could already tell he was unhappy. He said we'd just donate all this stuff to Goodwill because he wanted to buy all new clothes for our baby, to which I said OFC, we will still buy new clothes, but it's nice to have a good amount of clothes, especially since they go through clothes like crazy, or so I've heard anyway. He just said no, that his child won't wear hand-me-downs, so I stopped showing him clothes and started packing up the box. So he then asked why I was upset, and that he still wanted to see stuff, but I didn't see the point anymore, as he'd pretty much ruined the moment and gesture for me at that point. I know it's not new clothes, but my mom was just trying to help, and she literally went through the mountain of clothes and washed every single item. The box smelled amazing when I opened it. It hurt my feelings honestly for him to dismiss it like that and just say we donate it all without even taking the time to look through it. And I guess because this is the first time we look at baby stuff together, it hurt even more. He got upset then, saying he didn't understand why I was making him the bad guy for saying he wants to buy all new clothes. Top comments up responds to a long comment about her husband's background as he was growing up. How is his relationship with OOP's mother? Reply. He grew up wealthy, and while we aren't swimming luxury rich, we are thankfully pretty well off. We are both smart shoppers, and don't overpay for things when we can find something for a better deal. When I started to notice that he wasn't happy with the clothes, I asked him if he never wore hand-me-downs before, to which he said no, never. I was raised by a single mom and an older sibling, so hand-me-downs aren't a big deal to me. As far as his relationship with my mom, it's honestly great. She's never inserted herself in our relationship. They get along well, he calls her mom and tells her he loves her. Even when he talks to other people about her, he always says that she's the sweetest, kindest person he knows. I did tell him I felt he was just trashing her efforts, and he said that's not how he meant it when he said we'd donate the clothes at all. That he just wants all new clothes and doesn't understand why that makes him the bad guy. I appreciate your response, though. Sometimes I wonder if the pregnancy hormones make me too sensitive. Commenter 1, NTA. You're doing good for the environment and your wallets. As long as they're clean and not destroyed, it doesn't matter. Commenter 2. I've never once heard a rational person say, "Thank God I got new clothes for my baby that they outgrew in a month. I'm so glad they weren't used." Baby clothes are pretty. Pointless new if you can get used. It can be nice to get a couple cute photo outfits, but it's not worth spending $100 in something for a month or two. Commenter 3. NTA. It's your baby too and you have a say in what they wear? Babies do go through clothes like crazy, and there's no reason to get everything new when you have access to hand-me-downs because so much will have to get thrown out down anyways. He got upset then, saying he didn't understand why I was making him the bad guy. This seems like a red flag. It's manipulative and also gaslighting. You weren't upset with him for wanting to buy new clothes. You were upset because he completely shut you down and made it seem like your used clothing was not good enough for his baby. He got caught being a dick about this and decided to turn it on to you and make it about him being upset. Commenter 4, NTA. New clothes are wasted on babies. Update, AITA for getting upset with my husband over hand-me-down newborn clothes. I kept all the hand-me-downs. I genuinely don't recall, as it's been 5 years, what led to it no longer being an issue, but I think he understood where I was coming from. We bought a lot of new clothes for our baby together and had fun going to buy Baby Back when it still existed and seeing all the baby stuff and shopping what we needed. It was a mix of seeing all the other costs monitor, stroller, crib, mattress, etc. pile up, but also understanding my mom's good heart to appreciate all the clothes she sent. Let me tell you, it took a hot minute to put it all away. You know the XL Home Depot moving boxes? She sent one of those stacked all sort of baby clothes. If I remember correctly, shipping alone was $100 as it was going coast to coast. For all those worried he was gaslighting and being manipulative, we are fine, had another baby together 2 years later, and still happily married. OFC, our second was a girl, LOL, so while she did get a lot of hand-me-downs from her brother, she got a lot of cute girly things of her own. For what it's worth, it has all been a huge learning experience for us both, as I'm sure it is for any new parent. He learned to embrace the hand-me-downs, and some of my most sentimental pieces worn by both of our kids were not new when we received them. We learned how quickly kids go through clothes, and how, if you really look at it, aside from the blowouts, baby clothes get the least use. They're just drooly potatoes. Toddler clothes is a whole other ballgame. The knees on clothes don't stand a chance. All this to say, we learned to communicate about a lot, and while we still disagree about even more, we are always in a position to discuss it and work through it. He is an amazing father, and some of you hit the nail on the head when you said he might be basing his worth on what he can provide for them. Most importantly, what he constantly gives them, even on his busiest days, is his time. And all the hand-me-downs? Well, the pile grew with our additions, and we happily gave it to one of his cousins who had their first baby about a year ago, with my holding back my most sentimental pieces for keepsakes. My mom's a seamstress, so I've challenged her to make a teddy bear with them. I just need to ship them to her. She's come out and visited multiple times and vice versa, but that's always forgotten. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. A friend has patchwork quilts made for each child. They're all 15 plus, made of different fabrics from their childhoods. Baby blankets, soccer team or day camp jerseys, Halloween costumes, etc. I want a do-over grandchild to make such a collection. Reply, I love this. Every vacation we've taken, I've gotten them t-shirts from the place, so I can make them a quilt of them all when they turn 18. May or may not have stolen that from Twilight. Commenter 2. Oh, the delusions of first-time parenthood. All new. Clothes for a baby, lol. Glad he got off that quickly. Commenter 3. This was such a wholesome update. Honestly, it makes a lot of sense now that you explained it. Becoming new parents comes with so many emotions, expenses, and expectations. So, of course, the clothes felt like a bigger deal at the time. I love that you both found a balance between enjoying the fun of buying new things together and appreciating the love behind the hand-me-downs. The way you described the drooly potato stage made me laugh, because it's so true. Newborn clothes barely see anywhere before the next growth spurt. It's sweet that those little outfits ended up holding sentimental value instead of resentment, and even sweeter that you passed them on to someone else starting their journey. The teddy bear idea from your mom is going to be such a beautiful keepsake. It sounds like you and your husband learned the most important thing, not to avoid disagreements, but to actually work through them. Your kids will carry that lesson just by watching you two. Stories. Number 13. My 29F fiancé, 33M, says he will break off the engagement if I keep my last name. So this whole thing started a few months back, and I honestly never thought I'd be the type of person to post on Reddit about my relationship drama. But here I am, because I don't know if I'm losing my mind, or if my fiancé is showing me a side of himself I should have paid more attention to. For context, I'm 29, born and raised in Colorado. My last name, Harrison, isn't just a name to me. My dad, Mark, passed away when I was 17, and he was everything to me growing up. He coached my soccer team, helped me through brutal high school years, and always said, "Kiddo, never let anyone tell you who you are. Your name is yours first." Keeping Harrison has always been non-negotiable for me. My fiancé, Adam, is 33. We met 4 years ago through mutual friends at a barbecue in Denver. He's smart, funny, ridiculously good at cooking seriously. His brisket could win awards, and he makes me feel loved in a way I never thought I'd find. He's also very traditional in some ways, but until now, it never clashed too hard with how I live my life, or so I thought. The conversation that changed everything. It all started while we were going through wedding planning details with my mom, Linda, and my maid of honor, Jess. We were talking about invitations, and Adam casually said, "So it'll be Mr. and Mrs. Carter," with this proud little smile. I froze. "Wait," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You mean Mr. Carter and Ms. Harrison? I'm keeping my name." You could have heard a pin drop. My mom already knew, Jess knew, but Adam looked like I'd just announced I was canceling the wedding. He laughed nervously. "Babe, I thought you were joking about that. Like, you're really keeping it? After we're married?" "Yes," I said. "It's important to me. It connects me to my dad. It's my identity." Adam's smile dropped. "But we're supposed to be a family. Same name, same unit. That's how it works." I tried to explain, gently, that a name doesn't define whether or not we're a family. I pointed out that thousands of women keep their last names, and nothing changes about the marriage, but he wouldn't let it go. The escalation. That night, it turned into a fight. Adam told me his parents, Richard and Carol, always taught him that names matter. "It's about respect," he said. "If you really wanted to commit to me, you'd take my name." I told him respect goes both ways, and part of respecting me is respecting my choice. He scoffed. "So you'd rather cling to your dad's name than build something new with me?" That cut deep. I love Adam, but in that moment it felt like he dismissed the very core of who I am. Family opinions. Over the next few weeks, everyone started weighing in. Jess, maid of honor, told me flat out, "Don't back down. If he's gonna throw away a marriage over a name, that's on him, not you." My brother Kyle said, "If Dad were here, he'd be pissed at Adam for even suggesting you give it up." Adam's family? Oh boy. Carol called me one night and said, "Sweetie, I know you miss your father, but when you marry my son, you become part of our family. That's tradition." I was polite but firm. "I'm already part of your family. The last name doesn't change that." She sighed like I was a stubborn child. The ultimatum. 2 weeks ago, Adam sat me down after dinner. His tone was serious, like he'd been rehearsing. "I need to be clear," he said. "If you won't take my last name, then I don't see a point in moving forward with this wedding." My heart dropped into my stomach. "Are you breaking up with me?" "No. I'm giving you a chance to think about it," he said. "But I can't marry someone who doesn't believe in us being united as one family." I told him unity doesn't require erasing myself, that if anything, forcing me to change my name would only breed resentment. He didn't budge. Then, Maybe we're not right for each other. Where I'm at now, I've spent days thinking about this. I can't believe I'm at a point where I might lose the person I thought I'd spend my life with, over something as personal as my name. I don't want to give up Adam, but I also won't erase my dad or myself to make him feel comfortable. Every time I picture signing Mrs. Carter, my stomach twists. It feels like betraying the part of me that Dad helped build. Last night Jess came over with wine, and we sat on the porch. She said, "Names aren't what make families. Love and loyalty do. If he can't see that, then maybe you need to ask yourself what else he'll try to control." And that's the scary part. Because deep down, I'm starting to wonder if this is less about a name and more about control. Reflection. I haven't made a final decision yet. The wedding is 6 months away, deposits paid, dress already bought. But right now, it feels like I'm being forced to choose between honoring my dad and keeping the man I love. And the more I think about it, the clearer it gets. If Adam really loved me, he wouldn't make me choose at all. TLDR. My fiancé, Adam, says he'll call off our engagement if I don't take his last name. I want to keep mine to honor my late dad, and I feel like this ultimatum is unfair and controlling. Now I'm questioning whether this marriage is even right for me. Update. It's been about 3 weeks since I posted, and I honestly didn't expect the response I got. Thousands of comments, DMs, even people sharing their own stories about keeping or changing their names. Reading them was like therapy, so thank you to everyone who reminded me I'm not crazy for wanting to hold on to my identity. But let me tell you, things at home have been tense. The wedding planner meeting Adam and I had a meeting with our wedding planner, Stephanie. It was supposed to be fun. We were picking out flowers, table settings, all that good stuff. But then when it came time to finalize the invitations, Stephanie asked, "How would you like your names displayed? Mr. and Mrs. Carter? Or separate names?" Adam looked at me, dead serious, in front of her. "It'll be Mr. and Mrs. Carter." I froze again. I said calmly but firmly, "No, it's Adam Carter and Rachel Harrison." Stephanie, poor thing, looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. Adam didn't even try to hide his frustration. "We've been over this," he snapped. I had to ask her for a bathroom break just to get away from the awkwardness. In the stall, I stared at my reflection and thought, why am I crying over invitations? Why is this even an issue, talking to his parents? Again. That weekend, Adam's mom, Carol, invited me over for brunch. His dad, Richard, was there too. The whole thing felt like a setup. Over pancakes and coffee, Carol leaned in and said, "Rachel, honey, you know Adam just wants what's best for you. A woman takes her husband's name because she's proud to join his family. That's what I did. That's what my mother did. It's a tradition," I told her as respectfully as I could. "With all due respect, my dad's gone. Keeping my name is how I honor him. That doesn't mean I won't be part of this family, but if Adam can't accept that, then maybe we need to rethink this marriage." Richard finally spoke up, and for the first time, he actually defended me. He said, "Carol, times are different. Let the girl keep her name if she wants to. Doesn't change who she is to our son." Carol pursed her lips like she'd swallowed a lemon, but she dropped it, my brother's advice. Later that week, I had dinner with my brother, Kyle. He's not the most emotional guy, but he looked at me across the table and said, "Rach, if Adam is threatening to walk away over this, what else is he going to threaten to walk away over? What happens if you guys disagree on how to raise kids, or where to live? Is he going to give you another ultimatum then?" That hit hard. Because Kyle's right. This isn't just about a name. It's about control and respect. The breaking point, the real breaking point, happened last Friday. Adam and I were having dinner at home. He poured wine, lit candles, and I thought maybe he wanted to make peace. Instead, he said, "So, have you made a decision about your name? Because we can't move forward until you do." I told him, "Yes, I've made a decision. I'm keeping Harrison. That's final." He went silent for a long time, just staring at me. Then he said, "Then I don't know if I can marry you." I burst into tears right there at the table. Not because I was surprised, he'd warned me, but because hearing the words out loud made it real. This man I thought I'd spend my life with is willing to throw away everything we've built over 4 years because I won't erase part of myself. I packed a bag and went to stay with Jess that night. Where things stand right now, Adam and I aren't living together. We're technically still engaged, but the wedding is on pause. He keeps texting me saying he loves me. He wants to work it out, but he still hasn't budged on the last name thing. Meanwhile, I feel lighter. Sad, heartbroken, but lighter. Like I've been carrying the weight of his expectations for too long. I don't know if this is the end, but I do know one thing. I'd rather be Rachel Harrison, single, than Mrs. Carter, miserable. Final update. It's been 2 months since I last posted, and I think it's time to close this chapter. A lot has happened. The therapy ultimatum. After I moved out, Adam begged me to go to couples therapy with him. I agreed, because 4 years together isn't something you just toss out without at least trying. We had 3 sessions. The therapist asked Adam, "Why is Rachel's name so important to you?" He said, "Because marriage is about unity. If she keeps her name, it feels like she's only half in." The therapist asked me, "Why is your name so important to you?" I said, "Because it's my identity. It's my dad. It's my career. It's me. Changing it would feel like erasing myself." By session 3, it was obvious. He wasn't willing to compromise, and I wasn't willing to give up my autonomy. The last conversation. We sat in his apartment afterward, and he said, "Rachel, I love you, but I need a wife who will share my name." I looked at him and said, "And I need a husband who will share his life with me without conditions." It was the quietest breakup I've ever had. No yelling, no name-calling, just tears and silence. I left my ring on the coffee table and walked out. The fallout, his mom, Carol, called me the next day. She said she was heartbroken and that I threw away a good man over something petty. I told her, if a name is petty, then why was it worth him losing me over? She hung up on me. His dad, Richard, actually texted me a week later and said, "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Be proud of who you are." I'll always respect him for that. My family's reaction. My brother Kyle came over with pizza and beer the night I officially moved my stuff out. He hugged me and said, "Better now than 10 years and 2 kids down the line." My mom cried because she thought Adam was the one, but even she admitted that if he couldn't bend on this, it would have been hell later on. Moving forward. Right now, I'm back in my own apartment. I've been throwing myself into work, and I feel surprisingly strong. Do I miss Adam? Yes. I miss the little routines, the good mornings, the road trips, the way he'd hum while cooking. But I don't miss the constant tension over my choices. I've realized that marriage should add to your life, not subtract from it. And if the price of admission was giving up my name, my independence, and my sense of self, then it wasn't a price I was willing to pay. So that's it. No wedding, no husband, but no regrets either. I'm still Rachel Harrison, and I've never been prouder of that fact. Stories number 14. My niece wanted glasses and contacts, so I bought them. Now her dad is furious, and CPS is back in the picture. So I never thought I'd be here, but here we are. I'm going to try to lay this out clearly because it's kind of a mess, and there's a lot of history. I, 34F, have a niece, Haley, 12F. Haley is my late sister's daughter. My sister Megan passed away when Haley was only 3. After Megan died, Haley went to live with her dad, Brian, 36M. Brian eventually remarried a woman named Laura, 35F, and they've had 4 kids together. 2 boys, Ethan, 10M, and Caleb, 7M, and 2 girls, Madison, 9F, and Olivia, 5F. So Haley lives in a house with 6 people total, and it's crowded. It's a 3-bedroom house, and Haley shares a room with her 2 stepsisters. She doesn't really complain about it to me. She's a tough kid, but I can tell she feels like an afterthought there. The money issue. Brian and Laura aren't doing well financially. I get that. They both work odd hours. They're constantly stressed about bills, and the kids don't get much beyond the basics. 1 pair of shoes until they fall apart. Hand-me-down school supplies until they're basically useless. If clothes still technically fit, they don't get new ones. The thing is, I do okay financially. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable. If I'm being totally honest, I have zero trust that if I handed Brian cash and said, "Please get Haley new sneakers," that money would actually go to Haley. I'm not exaggerating when I say I've done this in the past and Haley got nothing, while suddenly all the kids had a pizza night or new toy. So now I only buy things directly for her, no middleman. Brian hates this. He already resents me because years ago, I was the one who called CPS after Haley told me she and the younger kids were being left home alone for hours. Brian and Laura got investigated, and even though nothing major came from it, he has never forgiven me. Meanwhile, I refuse to back down. Haley knows I won't let her walk home to an empty house. She stays with me after school and spends the night a few times a week. I've told her to never get on the bus if nobody's home, and she listens. The glasses situation. Now here's where the current mess starts. Haley and 2 of her step-siblings needed glasses this year. Brian and Laura couldn't take Haley to her appointment, so they asked me to. They shoved $100 into my hand and told me, "Get the cheapest pair possible." Fine. I drive Haley to the eye doctor. On the way there, she's quiet, then finally says, "Aunt Sarah, I really want contacts. Dad said no." I asked why. She shrugged and said, "He said they're too expensive and I don't need them, but all the girls in my class have them." When we got there, I asked the receptionist if it would be possible to do a contact fitting. She said yes. Haley lit up like it was Christmas morning. After the exam, she picked out 2 pairs of glasses. She loved. One was a cute purple pair, the other more neutral. She couldn't decide. I told her, "Get both. You should actually like the glasses you're wearing every day." I paid for both pairs and ordered her some contacts, too. Brian's $100 didn't even touch it. I just told Haley not to worry, and that it was a gift from me. The blow-up a few days later, Haley got her glasses. She was so happy. She wore them around the house, tried both pairs on in front of the mirror, even FaceTimed me later just to show me again. But of course, Brian found out. First he was angry she had 2 pairs. Then he found the contacts in her backpack. He absolutely lost it. He called me yelling that I was spoiling her, undermining his parenting, and rubbing Haley's stuff in the other kids' faces. His solution? Haley could keep 1 pair of glasses, but everything else had to stay at my house. Haley overheard this. The next day, she packed a bag, walked to my place after school and said, "I'm not going back. CPS." Again. Of course, CPS showed up again. Apparently the younger kids told them Haley doesn't live there anymore. Not a great look for Brian and Laura. Brian blew up my phone afterward, demanding I make Haley come back, accusing me of alienating his daughter and insisting I stop spoiling her. His definition of spoiling is literally, she put both pairs of glasses on her dresser and the younger kids saw them. I told him I wasn't sending her back if she didn't feel safe and cared for. He screamed at me, called me controlling, and hung up. Where things stand now, Haley is still at my house more than she's at theirs. She does go back some nights, mostly for her siblings, but it's clear she's checked out from that household. She's thriving here. She does her homework without being told. She cooks with me. She's laughing more. Brian is still demanding I undo the damage by forcing her to stay home and not buying her anything that makes her stand out from her siblings. Laura hasn't directly confronted me, but I know she's behind a lot of the pressure. And me? I'm torn. I don't regret giving Haley glasses she loves, or the contacts she was so excited about. But I also know this is escalating, and Brian is furious enough to try something drastic. I don't know what the long-term outcome is, but right now, Haley has what she needs. And I'll die on that hill if I have to. Update. A few weeks later. Hey everyone, I wasn't planning to post an update, but things blew up way bigger than I expected. I've been reading through the comments on my original post, and first off, thank you to everyone who shared support, advice, and even personal stories about being in Haley's shoes. I didn't respond to every comment, but I read almost all of them. So here's where things are now. Haley staying with me more often. After the whole pack a bag and walk over incident, Haley's been spending the majority of her time at my place. It's not official or legal, but in practice, she's here. She has a proper desk for homework, her own closet, her glasses and contacts in her bathroom drawer, and a bed that doesn't have to be shared with 2 other kids. She looks so much lighter here. It's like she can breathe. She helps me cook, she plays with my dog, she actually laughs. A few days ago I caught her singing along to music in her room while doing homework, and I can't even explain how different that felt compared to the quiet, withdrawn kid I used to see after she came from her dad's. Brian's meltdown. Brian is losing his mind over this. He's been blowing up my phone non-stop, calls, texts, voicemails. He alternates between begging me to send Haley home, accusing me of trying to steal his daughter, and threatening to call the police if I harbor her. He even showed up at my house once, pounding on the door, yelling that I was kidnapping his child. I didn't open the door, I just told him through the door that if he didn't leave, I'd call the cops. He stormed off eventually, but not before shouting that Haley was turning into a spoiled brat because of me. Haley was in the living room while this was happening. She didn't cry, she just sat on the couch, staring at the floor. Later, she said quietly, "He's not going to change, is he?" And I didn't even know what to say. CPS, again and again, CPS came back, this time because Haley's school counselor filed a report. Apparently, Haley confided in her that she didn't want to live at her dad's anymore because they don't care about me. The caseworker asked me straight out if I was trying to pursue guardianship. I froze, because I hadn't let myself think that far ahead. But I admitted that I was open to it if it came down to that. Haley said she wanted it, too. She didn't even hesitate. Now CPS is digging deeper. They've interviewed all the kids, teachers, and neighbors. From what I've heard, Haley's step-siblings said things like, "Haley doesn't eat with us anymore," or "She has more stuff than we do," which Brian twisted into me poisoning her against them. But the caseworker didn't seem convinced by him. Laura's role. I need to mention Laura because she's been weirdly quiet in all this. She hasn't called me directly, but she sent a message through her sister, who I barely know, saying I was ruining the family dynamic and that all the kids should be equal. I get the equal treatment thing in theory, but in practice, it feels like they want Haley dragged down to everyone else's level instead of raising her up. It's not Haley's fault they can't afford extras, and it's not like I wouldn't help the others if they needed something. But Haley is my niece, my late sister's daughter. I'm not going to let her go without just to keep things fair. Though, breaking point last weekend, Brian tried to force Haley to stay home. She had been at my place most of the week, and when I dropped her off on Saturday, she texted me an hour later saying he'd taken her phone and told her she wasn't allowed to leave until she remembered who her real family is. I drove back over there. When Brian saw me, he said, "She's not your kid, Sarah. Stop playing mommy." Haley was standing behind him crying. I called CPS right then and there and reported what happened. 2 hours later, an emergency caseworker showed up and spoke to Haley separately. The caseworker called me later that night and told me Haley had said she wanted to live with me full-time. Where we are now. So here's the big update. CPS has filed a petition with the court for temporary guardianship. I have no idea how long this will take, but the caseworker told me Haley is going to be staying with me for the foreseeable future while it's sorted out. Haley cried when she found out. Not sad tears, but relieved. She kept saying, "Thank you." I'm crying typing this out. Brian is furious. He left me a voicemail saying I stole his daughter and that he's going to fight this to the end. I honestly believe he'll fight it, but at this point, I think he's burned too many bridges. CPS doesn't trust him. Haley doesn't trust him. And me? I don't regret a thing. I'd buy her 10 pairs of glasses if it meant she felt seen. I'd buy her every box of contacts she ever needs. I don't know how this will end, but I know this. Haley is safe. She's cared for. And she's finally smiling again. Final update. Hi again, everyone. I figured I should close this out since so many of you have been following and supporting me and Haley through this. It's been months since my last update, and a lot has happened. The court case. The guardianship hearing was honestly one of the most nerve-wracking days of my life. Brian showed up in a suit, with Laura at his side, and tried hard to play the devoted father role. He talked about how much he loves Haley, how outside interference was ruining his home, and how all the kids should be treated the same. The judge didn't seem swayed. The CPS reports were damning. They laid out neglect, leaving the kids home alone, failing to get Haley to medical appointments, and using money meant for her on the household instead. Haley's school counselor testified about her falling grades and withdrawn behavior when she was at her dad's, compared to the improvements she'd shown since living with me. And then Haley herself spoke. She was nervous, but she told the judge that she wanted to stay with me. She said, "I feel safe at my aunt's house. I can be myself there." I'll admit, I cried in that courtroom. The decision. The judge granted me legal guardianship of Haley. It's not an adoption, but it means she lives with me and I have full say in her care. Brian still has visitation rights, but they're supervised and limited for now. When the judge announced it, Haley squeezed my hand so tight I thought she'd cut off my circulation. She smiled so big, and later she said, "It feels like I finally belong somewhere." Life now. Haley is thriving. She joined her school's art club and is talking about trying out for track in the spring. Her grades are up, she has a couple of close friends, and she decorated her room with posters and fairy lights. She keeps her glasses on her dresser proudly, and she wears her contacts when she feels like it. At home, she calls my house our house. She has her routines, her chores, her favorite spot at the dining table. She even asked if we could plant a little garden in the backyard next spring because it'll feel more like home if we grow things together. Brian hasn't made things easy. He still calls me names when we cross paths at supervised visits, but he's slowly realizing the system isn't on his side. Haley is polite to him but distant, and she has boundaries now that he can't bulldoze. Looking forward, I know raising a preteen into a teenager isn't going to be simple. There will be rough days, probably more court stuff, and a lot of hard conversations. But Haley has stability now. She has someone who puts her first. And me? I promised my sister before she passed that I'd look out for Haley. It took longer than I ever imagined, but I feel like I'm finally keeping that promise. TLDR. Court granted me guardianship of Haley. She lives with me now, is thriving at school and home, and finally has the stability she deserves. Brian still has supervised visits, but he's no longer in control of her day-to-day life. Haley finally feels safe, happy, and like she belongs. Stories. Number 15. My wife wants me to accept our son as a teen dad, but I don't believe it's his. Baby, this whole situation feels like my house is on fire, and everyone is arguing about who started it, instead of trying to put it out. Our son, who I'll call Ethan, 16, dated a girl named Megan, 16, almost 17, for about 6 months. They broke up about a month ago. About 3 weeks ago, her parents, Tom and Karen, called us and said Megan is pregnant. They said she's already showing, and based on their math, the baby would have been conceived while she and Ethan were still together. My wife, Laura, 34, and I, Mike, 36, basically went into panic mode. I can't even describe the knot in my stomach that night. Laura immediately started pacing, talking about how this was our worst nightmare. I was trying to keep calm, but my head was spinning too. We waited a couple of days before telling Ethan. When we finally sat him down, Laura was shaking. I told him straight, "Megan's parents say she's pregnant. They think you're the father." He froze. Then he said, "It's not mine. I never slept with her." At first I thought he was lying. I know for a fact he's sexually active because he came to me months ago asking for condoms. He's been responsible about it, even asking me for more when he ran out. I assumed he was just panicking and denying it, but he didn't budge. He kept saying over and over, "I didn't sleep with Megan. I swear." The family meeting, a week later, both families met at Tom and Karen's house. Laura went in already acting like Ethan was guilty. She started off with, "We know this is serious, and we want to do the right thing financially and emotionally for Megan and the baby." Ethan's face turned red. He snapped back, "Why are you all acting like this is mine? I told you, we never even did it." Laura glared at him, and I admit, I thought he was being disrespectful. But then Ethan said something that made the room go dead silent. He said in a less polite way than this, "The furthest we ever went was other stuff, not actual sex. I wasn't into it, so I never went further." I was embarrassed he said that, in front of everyone, but he sounded honest, like he wasn't scrambling for excuses. Megan chimed in. She admitted they rarely did anything, and then gave a specific example of a time they supposedly hooked up that, honestly, sounded believable. But here's the thing. Ethan looked me dead in the eye afterward and said, "Dad, she's lying. That never happened. I know my son can be a total idiot sometimes, but I also know when he's bluffing." And in that moment, I believed him. The divide at home. Since that meeting, Laura and I have been fighting non-stop. She keeps saying, "You're playing into his nonsense. You're just like every man who excuses his son because boys will be boys." She also brings up the fact that she and I were both 17 when she got pregnant with Ethan. She said, "I know exactly how this story goes. You don't want to face reality, so you're leaving me to deal with it." She's not entirely wrong. She's been handling most of the conversations with Tom and Karen while I've pulled back. But I don't think we should be talking about child support, custody, or parenting plans until there's proof Ethan is actually the dad. The problem? Tom and Karen are refusing to allow a prenatal paternity test. They keep saying it's dangerous for the baby, even though I looked it up and modern tests are safe. They say we'll just have to wait until the baby is born, which could be months. Where things stand now, Ethan is furious with Laura. He told me the other night, "If Mom doesn't believe me, I don't even want to talk to her." He's spending more and more time locked in his room blasting music, refusing to come down for dinner. Laura, meanwhile, is furious with me. She says I'm undermining her and sending Ethan the message that lying gets him out of responsibility. She told me yesterday, "When this baby is born and it's his, you're going to look like a fool." But deep down, I don't think it's his. Call it dad instinct, call it blind faith, call it me not wanting to see history repeat itself. Whatever it is, something in my gut says Ethan's telling the truth. And honestly, until there's proof, I don't see why my family should be planning for a baby that may not even be ours to deal with. The fallout. Karen has started texting Laura directly, cutting me out. Megan apparently told her friends that Ethan is denying his kid, and now word is spreading at school. Ethan came home last week saying some boys called him a deadbeat dad. He's humiliated. Tom pulled me aside once and said, "Be a man and make your son step up." That got under my skin. I wanted to tell him, "How about you make sure your daughter is being honest before trying to dump this on my kid?" But I bit my tongue. Meanwhile, Laura keeps reminding me that children of teen parents often become teen parents themselves. She thinks I'm enabling Ethan to be reckless by not holding him accountable. What's next? We're stuck in limbo until this baby is born. No court will order a test until then. If it turns out to be Ethan's, I'll step up and support him and Megan in every way possible. But if it's not, then my son's name has been dragged through the mud for nothing either way. This whole situation has cracked my family in half. Laura and I barely speak without arguing. Ethan feels betrayed by his mom, and Megan's family already treats us like the villains. I don't know how this ends, but I do know one thing. I can't force myself to believe my son is a father when every instinct in me says he's not. Update. My wife wants me to accept our son is a teen dad, but I don't believe it's his baby. It's been a few months since my original post, and I wish I could say things have calmed down. They haven't. If anything, things have gotten messier. After that first big blow-up between both families, Laura doubled down on treating Ethan like he was already a dad. She started pushing him to get a part-time job, telling him he needed to show responsibility and prepare for reality. Ethan completely shut down. He told her flat out, "I'm not raising a kid that's not mine." And from then on, their relationship has been cold. Meanwhile, Megan's pregnancy has been progressing. She's definitely showing now, and pictures of her baby bump are floating around social media. Of course, the rumors at school got worse. Ethan came home one day after some classmates apparently put a pack of diapers in his locker as a joke. He was humiliated. He ended up skipping school for almost a week because he said he couldn't handle the stares and whispers. I had to step in and talk to the school counselor, who thankfully was supportive. But even she said, "Well, if he is the father, he needs to prepare himself for the consequences." It's like no one wants to entertain the possibility that maybe he isn't. The second family meeting, a month ago, we had another sit-down with Tom and Karen. This time, Megan was more emotional. She cried and said she felt abandoned, that Ethan was denying her and the baby. She kept saying, "I know it's yours, Ethan. I know it is." Ethan got so worked up he walked out of the house and sat in the car until the meeting ended. He later told me, "Dad, I'm not lying. Why won't anyone believe me?" That broke me. I told him I did believe him, but it's hard when literally everyone else doesn't. Laura sided with Megan completely. She even offered to help buy some baby things, just in case. That turned into a screaming match between us later at home. I told her she was crossing a line, investing time and money into a child we don't even know belongs to our family. She shot back with, "You just don't want to admit he's repeating your mistakes." That one stung. The test fight. I did more research into non-invasive prenatal paternity testing. I even found a clinic a couple of towns over that offers it. I approached Tom and Karen about splitting the cost, saying we could end all this speculation. They refused again. Tom said, "We're not putting Megan through any unnecessary medical procedures just because your son can't take responsibility." I tried explaining that the test is literally just a blood draw from Megan and a swab from Ethan, but they wouldn't hear it. At this point, I think they're afraid of what the results might show. Ethan begged me to push harder, but legally. My hands are tied until the baby is born. And Laura. She told me I was being obsessed and choosing Ethan over Megan and the baby. I had to remind her that Ethan is our child, not Megan. That didn't go over well. The social fallout. Karen has started painting Ethan as the villain to extended family and neighbors. Word got back to me through a co-worker who lives in the same area as them. Apparently, Megan's family is telling everyone that Ethan is a runaway dad who's refusing to take responsibility. Laura's parents, my in-laws, even called us and said, "If Ethan is the father, we'll help, but he needs to man up." I wanted to scream. They don't know what's actually happening, they're just listening to Laura's side of things. Ethan overheard that phone call, and now he feels like half the family is against him. He's been spending weekends at my brother's place just to get away from the tension at home. Where things stand today, Megan is due in about 3 months. Unless something changes, we won't know for sure until the baby is born and a court-ordered DNA test is done. Laura has basically decided the baby is Ethan's. She's already talked to me about rearranging the house to make space for a crib for when the baby visits. Ethan refuses to even be in the same room when she talks like that. And me? I'm just stuck in the middle, trying to keep my son from completely breaking down while also trying to keep my marriage from falling apart. Some nights, I sit in the car after work and just stare at the steering wheel because I don't want to go inside and deal with the Cold War happening under my roof. I don't know what the truth is yet. I only know that if Ethan is telling the truth, and I really, truly think he is, then Laura is going to have to face the fact that she spent months punishing our son for something he didn't do. And I honestly don't know if our family can recover from that. Final update. The baby is here, and we finally know the truth. The baby was born last month, a little girl. Megan delivered at the local hospital, and of course, Laura rushed over with flowers before Ethan or I could even process what was happening. Ethan refused to go. He said, "I'm not putting myself in that room just for everyone to look at me like I'm the deadbeat dad." Laura came back from the hospital with pictures. She showed me and said, "Look at her nose. She looks just like Ethan did as a baby." Ethan rolled his eyes and stormed off. I didn't comment because honestly, newborns all look like squishy potatoes to me. The DNA test a couple weeks later, Tom and Karen finally agreed to the court-ordered paternity test. Ethan was nervous as hell, but when he walked into that clinic, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "I told you I'm not lying." The wait for results felt like years. Ethan was so tense he barely slept, and I caught him pacing the house at night. Laura, meanwhile, kept planning out what support Ethan will need once it's official. She even asked me to look at daycare costs. It was like she'd already decided the outcome. Then the results came in. Ethan is not the father. When he read the paper, he just collapsed onto the couch and cried. I've never seen him cry like that. It wasn't just relief. It was months of being doubted, shamed, and treated like a liar finally breaking loose. I hugged him and told him how proud I was that he stood firm. He whispered, "Thanks for believing me, Dad. That's going to stay with me forever." The fallout. Laura didn't take the news well. Instead of apologizing, she doubled down. She said, "Well, just because this baby isn't his doesn't mean he hasn't been reckless. He still could have been a teen dad if things went differently." Ethan shouted back, "But I'm not, and you treated me like garbage for nothing." Their relationship is shattered. Ethan barely speaks to her now. When she tries, he gives one-word answers or leaves the room. I've tried encouraging them to talk, but Ethan told me, "She picked them over me, Dad. I'll never forget that." For Megan, it came out that another boy from her school is the father. Apparently, she confessed after the DNA results were undeniable. Tom and Karen have gone quiet. No apology, no explanation. Just radio silence. Laura is still in some weird denial stage where she talks about how, "We'll all laugh about this. In 10 years. I don't think Ethan will ever laugh about it. Where we are now, Ethan's slowly rebuilding. He's back at school, back with his friends, and even landed a summer job at a local hardware store. He's still cautious. He keeps saying, "I don't trust adults anymore, not even Mom." That one cuts deep. My marriage? On shaky ground. I love Laura, but this whole ordeal exposed cracks I didn't realize were so wide. She was so wrapped up in reliving her own past that she projected it all onto our son. Instead of standing by him, she punished him for something he didn't do. We're in therapy now, but I honestly don't know if Ethan will ever forgive her. And I don't know if I can forgive her for what she put him through either. TLDR baby was born. Paternity test proved Ethan, 16M, isn't the father. He was telling the truth all along. His mom, my wife, never believed him, sided with the ex and her family. And now their relationship is broken. Megan admitted someone else is the father. Ethan's relieved but deeply hurt. My marriage is strained, and we're all trying to figure out how to move forward. Stories, number 16 AITA for refusing to watch my autistic friend's show recommendation. 21F have an autistic best friend that I've known since we were in the second grade. 21M. I have ADHD, so when we were younger, we were like the only friend that the other had on account of our respective conditions, making us quite an acquired taste. Recently, I've graduated from college while he is still in college, and I live at my own apartment while he still lives with his parents for free. Sometimes I worry that our maturity levels are just different now, because I feel like his pettiness comes out at the weirdest times. So there's a somewhat popular show that he's obsessed with. He sends memes in the friend group chat about it, talks about it nonstop, etc. Without revealing the show, it's something I would never organically watch, which I told him politely when he recommended it to me. I thought he would just be like, "Okay, that's fine," but he got extremely offended and kept wheedling me to watch it. I still politely resisted. One day while we were hanging, I hovered over a YouTuber I really like, and when he asked, I admitted I was a huge fan. So, he went out of his way to talk bad about the YouTuber and basically make fun of my tastes. When I called him out for his random malicious behavior, he admitted it's because I won't watch his show. I'm so confused. Why is he being such a petty person about this? Should I just watch the show even though I doubt I'd enjoy it, or just confront him? AITA here? Edit. The show is The Amazing Digital Circus, since many wanted to know. Can edit. Just wanted to say, this is actually my first ever time posting to Reddit. And wow, I did not expect all the feedback, both overwhelmingly positive and overwhelmingly negative. I'll leave this post up, but I have reached a conclusion with my friend. We've agreed that he'll read some pages of a book I really love, and I'll give the first episode a try. No matter what the outcome, I was never going to abandon this friendship. Also, he did apologize to me for previously brushing off my special interests and then hounding me to try his, and I apologized if it seemed like a personal attack for me not really wanting to give it a go. Keep arguing as you see fit, but in real life, the problem has been solved. Thank you for all the kind words, and even the harsh criticisms helped motivate to solve this with him. Stories, number 17 ATH. For not talking to my sister after she stole my daughter's name. English second language. I'm 31M. I've a sister, 28F, background. I'm from a culture with one of the oldest literatures in the world. Everyone respect the texts, but only a handful of people read it, as you'll need 100 lives to read them all. I love reading them since childhood. Everyone knows that. My sister has a 2-month-old daughter whose name isn't finalized. My wife is 6 months pregnant. I've spent months reading the ancient scriptures with the sole purpose of finding a unique and meaningful name for our daughter. Recently we selected this particular name. We both loved it at first glance. After my sister's delivery, she has been visiting my wife a lot to comfort her, as it's my wife's delivery next. Last week she asked my wife if we've selected our daughter's name, and my wife told her. I had asked her to keep it a secret, but my wife is emotionally vulnerable nowadays, so I let it go. The matter began when later my sister announced on the family group that she's giving that name to her daughter. I really couldn't believe it, thought that she's joking. But she isn't. I quickly confronted her. She said, "Be gentle with your niece. She's a family member too. You know the literatures well. You can easily find another name for your daughter." This has pissed me even more. Now I'm not talking to my sister and I'm openly showing my anger. I don't think that I'll be keeping the relations same after this. Mom asked me to not overreact over a name, as they're already late finding a good name for the newborn, while I still have time. Now, I'm not talking to my mom either. Stories number 18 AITA for telling a person with a disability not to touch. My children? IF40 took my children F3 and M1 to a shopping center today. I had both of them in a trolley, and we stopped in the food court to get a bite to eat. As I was pushing the trolley towards the counter, a woman approx early 20s with Down syndrome walked straight up to the trolley and started patting my son's head. I immediately moved the trolley away and said, "Please don't touch my children." Her mother, who had seen the interaction, was clearly annoyed and asked me, "Why is that?" The conversation went as such. Me. Because no one has the right to touch my children without their consent. Other mum. She doesn't understand. Me. Then it's up to you to teach her that it's not okay to touch strangers. Other mum. You're very lucky you have 2 healthy children without disabilities and don't have to deal with this. Me. Her disability is not relevant here because I would have, and have, said the same thing to anyone who has touched my children. Other mum. I don't know why you're so mad about this. She didn't mean any harm. Me. I'm more annoyed that you are trying to make this about your daughter's disability, when what it's really about is my children's body autonomy. At that point my food was ready, so I collected it and walked off with my kids. I want to make it really clear here that I feel this way about any touching of my children, and have said the same in the past to people without disabilities who have touched my children. I've been astounded since I had kids how many people, complete strangers, I've had to say this to. However, I'm wondering now if maybe I should have been more lenient in this situation because of the woman's condition. AITA, edit, to clarify. Wow, I was not expecting this kind of response. Thanks to everyone for taking the time to comment and give me an outsider's perspective. I've seen a few comments asking about my tone. I wouldn't say I was unfriendly, but wouldn't say I was friendly either. As I walked to the counter, I was looking up at the menus, so I didn't see the woman coming at all. Suddenly, she was right there touching my son, so my tone was more one of shock than anything. It all happened very quickly, so I was a bit taken back. I have definitely taken all of the feedback on board, and although in future I would still absolutely tell anyone who touched my children not to, I can see that my tone matters, and I could have been more tactful.